went to other Huffy Throw events, but they didn't really get the spirit of what it came out of, and they didn't really understand the creativity that went into people yeah, Fat City, we built a bike for the Huffy Throw once, and me and a few guys worked on weekends to do it, and we took a brand new Huffy, and I don't know how familiar you are with these bikes, but I mean, the brakes really don't brake and the derailleurs really don't shift. And so what we said was all right, we're going to tell them we were hired by Huffy to make the frame handling be just as bad as the derailleurs derail and the brakes brake. And so we cut up the front end of the bike and had this head angle here down to the ground at about 10 degrees, and rearranged all these tubes and put it back together and got on it and thought we'd done too good a job. We thought actually that it was not rideable. But with practice, we found we're actually able to ride it just barely. So we felt like we really succeeded. And we took it to the Huffy Throw. We ended up getting second place, I guess. I forget who got first that year. Oh, and Gary Helfrich, who used to work for us one year, did a bike that he called Captain Crunch. And Gary's a very crazy guy with a lot of time in his hands, and he's a welder and a lot of junk in his backyard. And he made a bike with roughly 20-inch wheels out of saw blades that were about 2 inches thick, so maybe they weighed 100 pounds each, I don't know. And he had these very large chunks of steel for the frame, and he got a seat, and he had a chain actually that it's just a miracle that it worked, because how would you find a chain where the on a bike they're a ½ inch from pin to pin on a chain, and this had an inch and a half, and the rollers on it or whatever size they are here, but on this chain they're this big around, and he had a cog that he welded some cranks to, and somehow a cog that he welded to the saw blades on the back wheel, and a chain that actually worked. And so it was rideable, although he needed a few bodies to push it to keep it going because it was so heavy. The whole thing weighed, I think, close to 400 pounds. And he didn't do very well because he couldn't get it off the ground to throw it. There had I don't know, 6 guys trying to lift this thing. It was a Huffy Throw bike that wasn't throwable. So. But it was a work of art. It was a beautiful thing to see. And it's all sitting up there in a pile somewhere in Vermont that they're waiting for some anthropologist in a few hundred years to come back and go, what is this? Some ancient bicycle ritual that happened here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should be the unarchiving of that pile at some point.
Yeah, right. They'll have to carefully dissect each layer and take notes and photographs.
So it actually there is a pile somewhere out there?
Yeah, there is.
Where did it take place?
In Vermont.
Just on...
I'm trying to remember the name of the town. I remember the first time I went, I didn't get there till late at night. It was midnight or something, and you drive down this road. It's a 2-lane road where there's just branches growing over it. It's kind of what's going on here? Am I really following the right directions? And I mean, it's wide enough for one car, just not really. You're driving through the branches, and finally I saw this light up in the distance, and drove up, and there are these guys sitting around drinking beer, and there's this bike on this big bonfire they have, and they're just burning up a Huffy. It's kind of like the initiatory startup of the weekend, and I just kind of walk up, and one guy looks up to me and says, "Yeah, we're getting ready to turn it over in a minute." Okay, I guess I've arrived. This must be the place. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Another thing about the West Coast is, I mean, there's been such focus around Mount Tam. I mean,
yeah.
Different bike groups, but it was like a place where everyone went. Was there something similar?
It's a mecca.
Or were there many places, I mean, besides Boston and Massachusetts, was it down toward Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
is there
that's a great question. I don't really know how to answer that. I know, there's certainly a lot of companies in the Boston area.
Mm-hmm.
It was Fat City and Merlin that were most known at first. Merlin got started by 3 guys that used to work for me too. So interesting history. There was a place that was near to town that we used to ride a lot. It was in riding distance. But I'm not really aware of where that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good
And
question.
were people members of bike clubs?
Yeah.
Kind of, because one of the other things about the West Coast is there was kind of a hybridization of professional riders and mountain bikers. So it seemed like quickly became a racing scene.
Yeah. I mean, wherever people like to ride, they like to do it in groups, and for the most part. events where people would get together and there'd be sponsored teams, and we always had a sponsored team, pretty much always. So, yeah, and you know, a lot of events happening. One of the differences, I mean, to Marin is we would ride in the winter sometimes. The conditions have to be right. I remember we would go out and have just a blast going out on these frozen lakes, and just, I mean, some guys had studs in their tires and some didn't. And before we had studs, we'd go out and get going really fast and just lay it down on this lake and just spin for like 100 yards or something. It's just a great feeling. This guy's literally underwater. It says, owner Jim Espy of Seattle, Washington. When you get only 4.5 sunny days a year, you'll learn to make the most of it. And then things you should feel when you sit on a bike. And there's just some really great copy in here, which you're all welcome to read. This is the people building the bikes. That's me up here. That's Scott, our welder, down here also. And if you want to take a minute to check it out, you're welcome to do so. I won't read all of it to you, but it's all about, you know, how we take bikes really seriously so you can have fun on it.
There's a question, Tony.
Yeah.
What are the chances of you making a comeback into frame building, and if you do, how will you go about doing it?
You know, I was speaking to that a little bit before. It's hard for me to say what the chances are right now. It's something I think about, but thinking about it and actually doing it are very different things. Yeah, there's definitely a possibility of it, and if I do it, I want to do it. I think doing it hands-on, you know, get my hands on some tubes and putting some bikes together and doing it from the ground up. So I'm having, it's not just a coming out like a designer and having bikes built. It'd be more like I'd like to do it myself. And right there in the whole process of it. That's what feels best to me.
What
Yeah.
style of bike do you think you would go back into, like mountain versus road bike?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I ride a road bike. I didn't bring my road bike. I have a titanium road bike too. A Slim Chance. And I love them both.
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel called to do a mountain bike. And would love to do a road bike too, but you know, my idea would be to somehow do it as simple as possible. Yeah, I don't know what the universe holds for my life. It's all unfolding. So. I don't know. I think about it. Greg asked me, when are you going to build a bike again?
When we're out there riding, though, it's kind of a status to see somebody on a full rigid bike doing the trail. And those guys are good riders. I mean, anybody can get on a full suspension bike. It's proven by me. I get on a full suspension bike. And I love to ride, but riding a rigid bike is a challenge. But we ride with some people that ride them every day off-road. And it's kind of a status. I mean, people ride good old hand-built bikes, and everybody kind of recognizes it on the trail. You know, cool bike, cool bike.
So you're saying like not even having a front suspension on it?
Right. Yeah. But you know, sometimes a 2 or 3 inch front suspension. But I mean, I ride a carbon fiber full suspension. Nobody ever goes cool bike. So. I mean, it's just, so there's definitely a market out there for well-built bikes. Good components and quality frames.
That's what I like, quality frames.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you all. Thanks for paying attention and listening.
Are you all mountain bikers, by the way, or you're just students that took a class you thought was easy?
He seems to approximation of the
Some
book.
bits.
It's, yeah.
About a third.
Okay.
All right. It's fun coming to a town where so many people ride bikes. I love it. It's awesome. It's really great. Can't wait till the world catches up.
Yeah, not a lot of mountains here.
Yeah.
There's no
Pretty
mountains.
close, though.
The closest hill is like going to Cool, well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for bringing the bicycle.